Across Canada, there have been over 9,500 cases of COVID-19 and 109 deaths. There's one new positive case of COVID-19 in Prince Edward Island today, which brings our total to 22. This individual is a man in his 50s from Queens County, and it is related to international travel. He has been self-isolating. Yet again, another important example of why people need to self-isolate. I spoke to him this morning, and he is at home and doing well. We talk about self-isolating, and there are always questions about what it means. So just to be clear, if you are self-isolating following travel outside the country or province, it's also important that other members of the household maintain social distancing, ensure enhanced cleaning of all shared spaces, and designate, for instance, a separate bathroom and bedroom for the person who has traveled. If this cannot be ensured, all members of the household should self-isolate for 14 days. Since yesterday, we've had 144 negative tests which have been we've received, and we've also, since in the last couple of days, doubled the number of tests that have been done at our COVID or cough and fever clinics. We've also want to mention that we have started doing our own limited testing here as opposed to just using the National Microbiology Lab. That has started yesterday afternoon. We have now the 3 cases in Prince Edward Island that are considered recovered. And recovered cases are those who've completed their 14-day isolation from symptom onset and their symptoms have resolved. For essential workers, this is a time when many are leaning on friends and family members to help out with childcare. And we have received feedback from families and friends concerned that this may not comply to physical distancing guidelines. But these cases are exceptions, as essential workers still need to go to work each day, and their children still need to be cared for during this time. As announced earlier this week, for those essential workers who do not have any of these options, government is implementing emergency childcare services in order to help alleviate pressure on our essential workers. And this is in line with similar policies across the country in many other provinces and territories, and those children will be screened daily, a small number of children, and lots of consideration about staggering lunch times and spaces. We've also been receiving a number of questions from individuals asking whether or not they should be going for leisurely drives. I would suggest that if you are going for a drive, you minimize the number of people you take with you. The more drives you are taking, the more you'll need to visit a gas station to fill up, where you will come in contact with other people. This is an activity that is best kept to a minimum. Yesterday, I was asked about correctional facilities here in Prince Edward Island, and just a couple of comments on that in this regard. Our correctional facilities are closed to volunteers and visitors. Enhanced cleaning and disinfection protocols are in place. And every new client admitted to a provincial custody will be placed in a 1 person per cell for 14 days with extra cleaning, and clients will be permitted to be out of their room or cell 1 at a time. There are further details, but those are just to follow up from yesterday. Essential workers, any workers traveling to Prince Edward Island for work need to self-isolate when they're not on the job. And we continue to try to emphasize this at the bridge, but this is an important message we are trying to give to people who may be in the construction or who may be driving trucks or healthcare workers. If they're not working, they should self-isolate. I recognize that so many islanders, and by far the majority, are practicing excellent physical distancing as well as self-isolating if they've recently returned from travel. And I thank you. Thank you personally for all you are doing as part of flattening the curve and preventing the spread of COVID-19 here in Prince Edward Island. However, we know that there are still some of you who may not be following the direction we have given. As Minister Myers noted yesterday afternoon, we now have extra highway safety enforcement officers at Confederation Bridge, who they are asking individuals coming across if their travel is essential or non-essential. And if their travel is deemed essential, then they also go through a COVID-19 screening by our public health officers. And this includes gathering information about their health status, what they're doing, their contact information, and if they have someone to support their self-isolation. And now, going forward, we'll be following up daily with every individual who's supposed to be self-isolating to ensure that they are complying with our direction. If they are not, it will be referred to law enforcement to help us in making sure that people are self-isolating if they need to. Prince Edward Island is one of the most densely populated provinces because of our population being spread out across the province. And one of the many things that keeps me up at night is worrying about what will happen if we get widespread community transmission in PEI. I don't want us to become a situation similar to the cruise ships that we see in the media. And this is why we have to continue to be diligent in our efforts, and that will be the best way we can protect ourselves and our community. I know people are wondering how long will this last. And although I can't put a definite timeline on this, it will likely be a couple of months. I can say that the more we comply with these public health measures of practicing physical distancing, self-isolating when you need to return from travel, the better chance we have of flattening the curve and slowing the spread of COVID-19 in our province.